So today is day one. I am attempting to recreate modern day Stoicism, and specifically through the letters of Seneca. I chose to do the letters of Seneca because they really resonated with me, and I feel that a lot of the things that they covered were the most applicable to my life at this point in time. So when I read it, I really knew that I wanted to implement kind of a few of those things into my daily life anyway. So why not do it for my final project? So the first thing that I'd like to cover is a quote that resonated with me in letter 5 of the letters of Seneca, and that is to refrain from following the example of those who crave for attention, not their own improvement, by doing certain things which are calculated to give rise to comment on your appearance or way of living generally. My version of using social media, updating everyone on everything I'm doing as far as graduation and my trip to Morocco this summer, and it seems as though I'm using it to impress and to prove and to constantly be presenting myself in a way that I want to be portrayed instead of just living my life and doing these things anyway. And it kind of made me question what I would and wouldn't do if I wasn't sharing it with the rest of the world. So my solution to this is that I'm going to test out a social media cleanse, and I'm going to go all 7 days without using social media. And on the 7th day, I will report back on my experience doing this and how I felt and if it made any impact. The second thing that I'm planning on doing for this entire week is aiming to spend absolutely no money and making do with all the food and belongings that I have for my last week. I'm going to try to rough it. This is the first time in my life that I haven't had a job, as I'm between periods, so I feel like I shouldn't take advantage of that. And that is based off the quote, "This was the aim of men, who once every month pretended they were poor, bringing themselves face to face with want, to prevent their ever being terrified by a situation in which they frequently rehearsed." So he suggests that we start cultivating a relationship with poverty, so if financial adversity ever does strike, we're prepared for it. And I feel like this will be good for me, so we'll see how this goes. Welcome to day 2. It's been telling, that's for sure. So Seneca writes, "Be harsh with yourself at times. You have to catch yourself doing it before you can reform. A consciousness of wrongdoing is the first step to salvation." So I took this extremely literally and decided to act upon it right away because it kind of hit me right in the heartstrings. So I went out of my way to make a counseling appointment at UMD and kind of take care of some underlying issues and stressors that gave me anxiety, and it was really a beneficial experience. This might get a little heavy, so please bear with me. So everything that I talked about today during my counseling appointment seemed to stem from this constant fear of not being enough. I don't even know who I'm trying to be enough for. It's like I'm trying to be enough for everyone when I should be trying to be enough for myself and relish in my accomplishments and my achievements and things like that. And the goal, I think, leaving that appointment for me is achieving some sort of a detachment from others' opinions and perceptions of me and my self-worth and my own identity. Because it seems that every time I have a loss in a friendship or a loss in a relationship or anything goes wrong like that, I internalize it so much that my self-worth and identity is lost, and I lose my focus on improving myself and improving myself to my standards, whatever those may be. That's kind of what I'm discovering right now, since I know that I've been holding myself to everyone else's standards for a long time. But I just felt that being harsh with myself and having to admit that, first of all, making the appointment was enough to be harsh with myself, because that was like something I thought I would never do. But showing up and really being vulnerable and talking about these things and trying to move past them and recognize that this is something that I need to fix. I can't attest it to everyone leaving and things failing, and anything that is out of my control me. Which is funny because it's everything she said was in line that we've talked about in class, as far as letting these things out of your control be out of your control. So not only do we talk about how I seem to be excessively trying to prove my worth, which I kind of talked about yesterday too, because in regards to social media, I know that pertains as well. But we also talked about the fact that I seem to want to distract myself from pretty much anything. Fill my schedule to the brim, and I can never have a moment of quiet, and I can never sit by myself. I don't like to stay by myself. I always want to be with someone or doing things or planning things. And we've talked about regarding Seneca and being present in the moment and focusing on the now rather than the past or the future. But I don't know, that was interesting. Distraction was a good word for a lot of the things that I do, and I don't want to do that because I want my experiences to be meaningful, and I don't know how I would ever be able to achieve a meaningful life if I'm constantly filling them with distractions rather than fulfilling things. So there's that. So rather than ruminating over a million things that I usually think about that I probably shouldn't think about or focus on, I'm going to try to spend the rest of the day processing everything. I wrote in my journal about it. I'm going to write in my journal about it some more, just so I can go back. I like to go back and read what I write about so I can see what I was thinking in the moment. So the plan for tomorrow is to tackle some of these distractions head on. I know that my means of distraction, although there's numerous, I think that music is one of them. I know that I constantly have headphones in my ears, no matter what, walking the hallways, when I'm doing chores, when I'm going to bed. I fall asleep with music. I can't ever be in silence. Like, it just kills me. So tomorrow I'm going to attempt to replace the music I usually listen to and the constant noise. So that's next on the agenda. So in letter 2, Seneca says, restlessness is symptomatic with a sick mind. And he also says that man should learn how to pass time in his own company. Well, I'm horrible at that. Absolutely horrible at that. So what I usually do is listen to music literally 24/7. I don't necessarily I don't want to say the best music choices. A lot of the music I listen to, I feel like, has pertained to different parts of my life. So I use music as kind of like a memory bank type of thing, like looking back at pictures and whatever. And I kind of thought that was good for me, but in a lot of ways I feel like it's not, because I know a lot of songs come on and they kind of trigger those bad memories or kind of sad memories or different people that you don't have in your life anymore, or things that you miss, periods of time, things that are no longer the now. So I think I use music as a means to transport myself out of the now, which I never would have thought of before this. And so what I decided to do for this entire day was to replace my music, just my general playlist, with some Stoic meditations. Some of them were guided, some of them were more like ambiance music, and kind of did a little bit of exploring. And when I was researching it a little bit, I saw something, I don't know who it was, but it was on some like modern day Stoic forum that said that lyrical music gets stuck in one's head, inhibiting mental equanimity and allowing other selves, namely the lyricists, to inhabit and disrupt inner mental discourse. So I really think that that's true. I feel like that was the whole point of why I did it, is because I liked that it interrupted my thoughts, and I didn't have to sit here and think about myself or, my future or whatever it is that I feel like I should be thinking about, or things that I can't get out of my head. The one way to combat that is to fill my brain with lyrics and fill my brain with all these different songs, when in reality it's counterintuitive, because a lot of times I'll be listening to them and I'll get sad. It'll remind me of a person or a place, as I said. So it kind of just relates back to my therapy appointment, as I said yesterday, recognizing this as my attempt at an unsuitable distraction to make myself feel better. I did end up finding a few different good ones. One was Brian Eno, and his was just ambient, like Stoic music, and it was a whole album, and it was super relaxing. I did my homework to it, and I really liked it. And then in the morning and in the night, I did Michael Seeley's guided mindfulness meditations, and well, I actually started those kind of like at the beginning. I was kind of thinking about meditation before all this started. So for the past few days, I've been doing that especially every morning and every night. And I noticed that it helps me fall asleep, for one. And starting off my morning with a mindfulness meditation instead of checking Facebook or checking something that just makes my brain overload is a much more beneficial thing for me. So I feel like definitely the guided meditations at the beginning and end of the day were super beneficial. And then there's a more contemporary artist called Phalia, and I found their album, and it's called Fall and Light, and there's no lyrics or anything either. It's instrumental, and it's kind of techno-ish, but it's like slower. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I spent an entire drive driving to St. Cloud listening to it, which usually I would never do without actual music, I guess, or my usual music, so I can sit and jam out and not think about anything. But I actually enjoyed my entire drive, and I sat and I was fine with sitting with my thoughts, and it wasn't as scary as I anticipated it was. It's like I feel like I've always been constantly avoiding it for whatever reason, and now it kind of makes me wonder if I should be, and maybe spend some more time in silence or spend some more time with noises that aren't just busy noise. So that was my lesson for the day. Thank you, Seneca. So Seneca says, associate with people who are likely to improve you. I have a lot of great friends, like wonderful friends, don't get me wrong, but I feel sometimes like they don't maybe share my mentality as far as, finding a meaningful career and being really adamant about making positive change and things like that. So I decided for this project to seek out a mentor, a moral tutor, as Seneca would call him. And he was my internship supervisor this year in the communication department, and somebody who I look up to very much professionally and otherwise. So I decided to schedule a meeting with him, and I talked to him today, and from that, I gleaned kind of two things. First of all, we talked about my future plans and whether or not I wanted to go to grad school or work, and how to pick a career and how to pick a program if I do go to grad school. I always came back to my parents, and other people, and well, what about this and what about that, and things that were so external, and just worrying about these different things that had nothing to do with the core of me. He said something to me that really resonated with me, and he said, Tani, quit trying to find the right answer. And he said, because there's no right answer, there's good answers, and you have to trust in yourself that you're not making a bad decision, but that doesn't mean that there's many different good things that can happen, and that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to pick one and be the almighty controller of whether or not that's your lifelong right decision, because right decisions change all the time. And so that kind of made me exhale a little bit. I can't even decide on something because I feel like I might be making the wrong decision or whatever, and either way, it kind of reminds me of that whole point of destiny. It's going to steer you regardless. You're going to go down this path because that's what I'm supposed to be doing right now, and if I change, so be it, and if I don't, then maybe it is what destiny had in store for me. And then another thing that we pointed out, that kind of that concept again of me bringing up all these external people and their advice and my mind being so impressionable, as Seneca would say, that another letter of Seneca stood out to me after this conversation. If you shape your life according to nature, you will never be poor. If according to people's opinions, you will never be rich. And that comes back to living my life for someone else and worrying about, the prestige or the income or just having the degree to have the degree or what position I hold within a company. And it really made me think. And if there's two things I took away from that meeting today, those would be them. And it was a good time to hear them because, who knows? So I guess I'm just going to do the best I can and trust that fate's got my back. A sidebar, that's been my bed for the past 5 or so days because I don't have a bed anymore because I'm moving out. So not only did I get the full effect of the food poverty, but the absence of a bed as well. In letter 6, Seneca says, part of my joy in learning is that it puts me in a position to teach. Nothing, however outstanding and however helpful, will ever give me any pleasure if the knowledge is to be for my benefit alone. And I really like that. I have been a journalist for the Odyssey Online, which is just an independent journal, for a little over a year now. When learning beneficial things, you usually want to take them to change the world and to make things better and to make other people open their minds as much as you are. So when I learn things, I always feel so compelled to tell everyone and all my friends and my family and whatever, and I can't always do that so articulately with my speech. So writing is the medium that I usually use in order to get messages across or to make a change or do whatever it is that I'm trying to do. What I decided to do today was to make a blog, which I'm very excited about. So there it is. That is my blog as of now. It's only got one thing on it, but soon to be more. And that way I can have my own forum without limitations to talk about whatever I wanted. And I think expanding what I've learned and what I keep learning as a college student and as somebody who's unconventionally young to be a college graduate, I think that my story could be really beneficial to some people. So that's what I'm hoping anyway. Letter 38. Seneca repeats, words need to be sown like seeds. No matter how tiny a seed may be, when it lands in the right sort of ground, it unfolds its strength and from being minute expands and grows to massive size. Hopefully I can expand my seed. So I was planning on talking about something pretty different today. As I prepare to go to Morocco, I just spent a little time consoling my parents because I had to say goodbye to them. And my mom was crying and super worried, and me trying to stay strong because I know her pain is not my pain, and I know that that's not my thing to internalize, and I was trying to tell her some stoic mentalities, and I didn't cry. I did not cry, so I was really proud of myself. So in the midst of all that, I did find out that my boyfriend and I broke up a few months ago. He is now dating a girl that he told me not to worry about, and a girl that he was friends with, and that, you know, all this stuff. And so I didn't prepare myself for that this morning. I was actually in a good mood all day, but I definitely didn't do my mental preparation for things that could go wrong today. And if I did, that is something I did not include and did not expect. So I was unfortunately pretty shocked by that. And I've been going back and forth just as far as my feelings, but the letter to Seneca that I'm going to talk about today says that anger is to be avoided not for the sake of moderation, but for the sake of sanity. And I think that's true for me in this very moment, because that was my first reaction. I wanted to be so angry, and I wanted to, you know, the first thing I wanted to do was text him and say, like, you're a liar, why would you do this? And I'm not going to. I'm going to be okay, and that's all I know. If this is what destiny wants, and this is what destiny wants, and I was clearly not meant to be with him, and if he was meant to be with her, then I guess who am I to say? I wasn't this calm the minute I found out, but, you know, after an hour of thinking about it and thinking about how I'm going to handle things today, this is what I decided on. So thank you, Stoicism, for coming in clutch at this time, because I'm sure glad I found that out now when I had some coping mechanisms. So I feel like I need like a t-shirt or something that says like, I survived without social media for 7 days. Just kidding. So 7 days today, I gave up social media. That means Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. My initial response was that it felt like something was missing all the time. Like I'd just check my phone by default. Didn't have to buzz, didn't have to ding. Probably the first day or two I'd get irritated almost when I didn't have a notification, because I'm just so used to it. Even if they're not important notifications, they're always there. Somebody's always trying to contact you or liking something, or pops up that somebody posted, and I don't know, it just felt really weird at first, and I kind of felt those like withdrawal symptoms, like I was agitated. As the days went on, I learned how to just take it out when it buzzes, and just when people are talking to me, rather than just being on it in my free time. And it freed up a lot of time to do my readings and to do the things that I usually put off when I'm on social media, since it's literally just such a terrible distraction. It's very freeing. It was very liberating to not be chained to it all the time. It almost feels weird being around people who are sitting on their phones all the time, though. Like, I understand now why people get so irritated when you're trying to talk to them and they're on their phones, because then I was the only one that wasn't on my phone. So I'm looking around like, okay, guys, like, really? You haven't looked up in 5 minutes? How are you doing this? It's just kind of funny, too, because it's another one of those transporters, kind of like how I talked about with music. It's like an illusion of connectivity all the time. So you try to avoid feeling lonely by constantly talking to people or, you know, seeing people's faces, and it doesn't ever help your loneliness. As Seneca says, nobody attests their unhappiness to the present. when you're on social media all the time, it's as if you're never in the present. You're always out of your mind and trying to live through other people's lives, I guess, and be where they are or what they're doing, or you can look at old pictures, so it's always the future and the past and everywhere but what you are. I would suggest a cleanse to anyone, especially if you feel like, okay, this is starting to control my life. Like, 10 out of 10 was a good refresher. And moving on. So, to the second thing, my whole don't buy any food, don't buy anything went actually really well. And as I discussed in class, I thought it was really nice actually not to have my possessions. I haven't had a bed because I'm moving out. My parents took my car, so I haven't had that, and I've been depending on other people for rides and the bus and things like that. As well as I haven't bought any food. It wasn't a big deal. My actual issue, I guess, was when people asked me to go out to eat because it's like such a social thing, and I'd be like grumpy about it and be like, oh no, like I can't spend money, I can't go. I mean, in the end, it was like, oh, I didn't even spend that money. And so people would come over and we'd just scrounge up some stuff and whatever snacks I had, which was not much. I'm always very adamant about buying what I want when I want. My family has had some times where we've been stuck in some financial adversity, and being able to do that and still be secure is something that I've always wanted, I guess. I try to steer away from that feeling because I know what it's like to, endure that harshness. But if eating nothing but eggs for 2 meals a day, I'm so sick of eggs, and mixing your wheat spaghetti noodles with your just normal elbow noodles and having it be ugly in a pan with some butter and garlic salt, so be it. If that's the worst that I've got right now, I'm actually very, very fortunate. It's something that I've avoided for a long time, so I really appreciated it. And all in all, it's been a good week. So I feel like overall this week, I honestly feel like my brain is like expanded beyond my comprehension now. So I can't like stop thinking this way, which is kind of hilarious. But I mean, deliberately and intentionally going out of my way to practice at least one thing a day, especially of the letters of Seneca, because I liked that reading a lot, actually. Like, that was one of my favorites, and I'm taking it with me to Morocco, so I'm going to read it again and process it again in that light when it's not an assignment. So I just really think that I can take a lot away from this, and this is a philosophy that it really speaks to me. I know that at this point in my life, there's a lot going on that is out of my control. There's few things that I took away from this the most. In letter 2, Seneca says, have what is essential, and that is enough. And that really, it makes me feel like kind of being a minimalist or something, but it really is true. And I feel like I'm much more aware and conscious when I'm purchasing things or thinking about doing things. And I always have that mental check of the Stoics in the back of my mind now kind of talking to me. And that's obviously fresh. But so I'd like to end on the note, what progress have I made? I'm beginning to be my own friend, and that is progress indeed. And I think that's what I need right now, is I need to be my own friend, and I need to trust myself and trust in nature, and I guess that's all I can do. So, woo!